All right. Thank you. We can see a number of people have joined in already. What we'll do is we'll kick off the presentation. And the key thing to know about today is this is more of a discussion around the service management or how we run TM1 in our different organizations. What are the common ways we run or operate the model, and also what we can do, what are the new things in the market that we can leverage to make our service management better. uh, as you probably know, that TM1 is celebrating its 40th birthday, so it has been around for a long time. And what it also means is that the number of organizations that use TM1 use it in a lot of different ways over the different years. And not all of them use the modern best practices to run TM1. So today, what we're trying to do is lift the bonnet up and try and discuss and have some ideas about how to improve the service management of TM1. All right. So, firstly, I'm Amendra and I'm the founder for Octane Software Solutions. We are a premier IBM Gold partner in TM1. We support and manage clients in Australia. We are headquartered here in Sydney, Australia, but we've got clients all over the world, and we've got presence in India, Dubai, Fiji, and we've got clients in Asia, UK, US as well. I'm also a IBM champion and have been running TM1 shops before starting Octane for around 15 years. And then in the last 6, 7 years, have been looking after TM1 sites as part of Octane. So what I'm going to talk about today is my first-hand experience of what we see in the market and what we do to improve it. All right. So today, as we go through the presentation, you are welcome to put in your questions in the chat, and I'll try to answer as we go. We'll try to keep it interactive and have fun with the presentation. And if there is anything that I can answer on the spot, I will answer on the spot, or otherwise I'll get back to you after the session. We, as part of Octane, have been looking after a number of tier one sites. So our claim to fame is that we've got close to 90,000 worth of project hours under our belt. We also support around 5,000 or have supported around 5,000 tier one users globally and have more than 100 tier one projects under our belt. So a significant amount of experience amongst the team at Octane in TM1, and we will leverage that for today's presentation. Some of our clients, so these we've got a product called Octane Blue, which I will introduce a bit later. But some of our clients that are already on Octane Blue are here. As you can see, it's from a broad range of sectors, a broad range of sizes and countries and geography, and it suits all of them, and every one of them has given us glaring feedback on that. So let's jump into it a bit more and go. What does a well-run TM1 service look like? So put yourself in the center there, and if you are looking after TM1 in any of your roles, so you could be a service owner, you could be a developer, senior developer, or you could be from the finance side who happens to have the ownership of TM1. There are certain things or a broad range of things that you generally have to juggle or be mindful of when you have that role. You might not be in that role at the moment, but you might have aspiration to be in that role, to have a more management or senior ownership role of the management. And this is not just for TM1. These sort of task is transferable to just about any of the other BI tools. So what we talk about for TM1 is we do the same thing for Power BI, Cognos, and others as well. But today we're specifically talking about TM1 only. So a few things that you have responsibility for is to making sure that the system runs correctly. So all the upstream data that comes into TM1, how it is set up, how it is scheduled, there's no issues around that. So the technical aspect of picking up data from upstream systems like your GL systems, your Salesforce and your HR systems that come in, be it nightly run or hourly run or whatever sort of frequency that you have. Make sure that it's coming through correctly. There are no issues, there are no TI failures. If there is a failure, why is it? Try and fix it either within the code or in the data set to ensure that that runs smoothly. Most of the times you'd be running it via Cho and ensure that the Cho is running and correct, bringing in the correct data, because there's nothing worse than going into TM1 as a user and not having the confidence or the faith in the data that you see there. The other thing you might be sort of have an eye on is what version of application you're running. It's not too out of date. You have to be upgrading if you are. This is applicable if you are on on-premise version. If you're still on our on-premise version, 99, if not more, percent of the new TM1 that we sell nowadays is on the cloud. If you're not on the cloud and wish to go on the cloud, separate discussion, but drop me a line and I'll give you some options as to what is the best way to do that. Um, the other thing that you have to ensure is that your infrastructure where your TM1 is installed is of the right. So it's number one is compliant. So depending on what licensing you have, your licensing should be compliant with the size of the infrastructure. If you have PBU based licensing, you also have to keep an eye on the number of users. Is it compliant? You're not going over the usage. The It is not uncommon for IBM to come and audit different sites at different times to ensure that they are compliant, and you don't want to be caught up with that. It can be a fairly expensive exercise if you get pinged for that. So you want to ensure that it's compliant at all time. Then you come down to the users. You have to ensure your users are trained up. So at the part as part of onboarding or as part of people taking on roles that are relevant to TM1, you have to ensure that they're trained up and know the basics of TM1 at least to be able to slice and dice and then pick up from there. The good thing is a large portion of the finance users use Excel as an interface, which generally means that we don't have to teach them a new skill, but have to just guide and point them in the right direction to ensure that they're trained up. Then we come into the modeling side of it. Before we go into the modeling, the other thing with the users is we have to ensure that the security side of things is taken care of. So you have a process and a mechanism to ensure that people have access to the right area of data, and also a process to ensure that people don't have access to data that they're not meant to. So, for example, if your model has got sensitive information like HR data or salary data, you have to ensure it's secured, and the security setup that you've got running is uh, able to ensure that there's no unauthorized people looking at data they're not meant to. Within the model, there will be multiple TIs and rules and things like that. Are they written in best practice ways? Are they scalable? Is there a lot of work every month end to update rules or TIs, which means you have a lack of automation within the TIs and rules. That side of coding has evolved in the last 10, 15 years. So if your model is old, there is a good chance that if you have a look at it and look at it in a way to try and minimize the manual work, you would be able to do that utilizing the newer features of TM1. So if you shouldn't have to spend a lot of time at the month end to do rollovers, at the year end to do rollovers and things like that. All of that can be automated within the rules and TIs. Then we come around to how the cubes are structured. Is the functional side of it, is it fit for purpose? We sometimes some of our developers get really attached to the models and the cubes that they have developed and find it hard to change. So you have to let go of those emotions and ensure that whatever you have developed, is it hitting the right tune for the business, because that is the most important thing as to how it is being used. Does it tick all the boxes? we all know that within the confines of TM1, we can build absolutely amazing models that can do just about anything for the business. But in doing so, we also have to ensure we keep an eye on what does the business require. So it's not something that what we want to build is instead of what is it that they want. It's a more common a problem that we want it to be, but it happens all the time. Then come around to the costing of the licenses, as well as the costing of the resources. So how are you running TM1? Do you get the contractors in for to do your development? Do you use an external vendor like one of us, or are you have got an in-house team to do it? All three models have got valid pros and cons, and all three are being used extensively at different sites at different times, and a lot of sites have got a hybrid, a mixture of different models of how they resource it up, and also the cost of licensing. So if your licensing is more than few years old, it might not be a bad idea to have a review of that. Are you maximizing the all the licenses that you have? Do you use all the license do you have? Do you need to pay for all the things that you have? Are you on a program that probably, if you review it and jump onto a newer licensing mechanism from IBM, it would save you? We come across a number of clients that are paying SNS, and if we rejig the way licensing works, we can take them to the cloud for much less than what they're paying currently for their on-premise. So it's on a case-by-case basis. If you've got interest in that, feel free to reach out, and we'll have a chat about that as well. But it's a good idea for you to review either with your vendor, with yourself, within your internal team, or talk to your IBM account manager and try to ensure that the licensing model that you have is what's appropriate for you at the moment. The other big problem, sometimes you, or the other big task that you have, is to ensure that the pipeline of work. So you'll have a list of enhancements coming through. You'll have a list of projects coming through. How you manage that on top of your month-end task, your year-end task, and your daily admin task. How are you managing that? And the larger sites especially also have in place maybe a user group or a steering committee that helps manage, prioritize this thing. So in your role, you'd have to run those things and ensure that you feed relevant information up to them as well. So, in a nutshell, it's not a easy job, but it's a rewarding job to try and run and manage that. And sometimes it's not one person doing it; it could be a combination of people or a team looking after all these different tasks, depending on the size of your model or the implementation. Now, going back and digging, lifting the bonnet a bit more, what is TM1? Why do you need an operating model? It's again a valid question. And go, I've been doing this for 10 years on my own. Why do you need to look at it and look at the operating model? One of the things we find is sometimes what you do is go stale after a while. It's no longer relevant to the market. It's no longer relevant to the business. So it's good to keep looking at it. So the purpose of what we're doing, why we're doing it, is to ensure that the activity of the internal activity, external activity, bring it in, mesh it up in our cubes, and provide insight to the business. What the business really needs us for is to ensure that they can have service excellence, operational efficiency. They might be going through a transformation, so they'll rely on us and our teams to help them with the transformation. End of the day, what the business is looking for is shareholder value, profit growth, asset growth, and things like that. So that's what's driving them. So what the business is looking at sometimes is different than what we're looking at, because we are stuck in the modeling side of things in the engine room, and we have all our focus in our engine room, and sometimes we forget or lose sight of why we're doing this and what is it that the business is looking for. So what we are trying to do is bring the KPIs together for what we're doing and how the business is looking at us. A number of times, and again, a senior exec from IBM once told me that it's a life cycle of around, and they've done their research, around 3.5 years. So organization would buy a BI tool or TM1, implement it, half the time implement it poorly. This is one of the areas where the tools are implemented very poorly. So trying to extract value out of it is very difficult at times if not done well. And they'll go through a life cycle of about 3.5 years and then realize that I'm not making the best use of it, and then go into another cycle of trying to find another tool, go through, implement, purchase it, implement it, and then again go through a 3.5 year cycle before realizing I'm not getting value out of it. It's not the tool. 99% of the tools would be able to do what they want, but it's how it's implemented and how it's run. There's a constant evolution. The business keeps on evolving, but our tools tend to be static sometimes and doesn't evolve with it. So when you go into that uh, holding pattern, you very quickly become out of date or no longer relevant to the business. So what we have to do is ensure that we all always link up to what the business requirements are and why. So now coming back to the operating model and the four common problems, there are many more problems, but these are the four common ones that I see all the time in the different businesses that we go into. First of all is high cost of model. If you haven't had this in your daily life at some point, please put it in the chat, because when I was running TM1, one of the key concerns from the business at different times used to be the high cost of supporting or doing development in TM1, and not necessarily the the cost of TM1, which is probably quite low compared to some of the competition that we have or have seen, but it's the overall cost of ownership. And I'd largely fault ourselves on that as to how we run it and how we manage it. That brings it. So, for example, if you're doing a big project, and if you're in Australia, you'd be paying anywhere between 1,800 to 2,200 daily rate for a project. And if you have a large project, it quickly adds up. And then also uh, the other problem sometimes we have is the cost of supporting the model, and finding the resource to support the model is equally bad. The different ways people generally tend to have their supported or development or support is either using in-house contractors, in-house permanent resources, or using a vendor to do that. The second thing we do see quite a bit of is the unstructured support model. It's there is no rhyme or rhythm. It just go in day by day, and whoever looks after TM1, it's probably like we call it like a 2020 cricket player. We'll just go into bat and just try to smash everything out of the park and hope for the best. That's not really the way to do it. What we need to do is have some sort of a structure or process as to how we manage. If you remember all the different things that we have to worry about, the licensing, the projects, the pipeline, the prioritization, if you don't have a process or mechanized way of looking at it, very quickly, what will happen is, as they say, the squeaky wheel will get the oil. Users or execs who are making the most noise will get their stuff done, and the others, which are probably more important for the business, will get put on the back burner and not get done. So in your role, you have to be mindful of how structured is your support model, how are you able to communicate what's in the pipeline, what and how to prioritize that. So things like that. The third thing we see is something that we've created ourselves, is the key person risk. So a number of times we'd get frantic calls in the evening when somebody has resigned or left the company, and they've worked out with all the knowledge on the TM1 model, and there's no one there who can run or manage or update the TIs or whatever it may be in TM1. Um, that's a risky position for both the company and for the people looking after TM1. And it creates a sort of a lack of confidence in the model as well. And go, oh, if anyone can't walk in and understand what's being done and update it's probably not fit for business in a modern business. So that's something that can be alleviated by using documentation, using automation and things like that. So there are a number of ways that we can eliminate that. and sort of work towards it. The other thing that we always coach and consult our people that work with us in different businesses is, if you create the key person risk, what the first thing it does, it ensures that you don't get promoted to a better, bigger role, because you are always putting yourself in a position where things will not happen without you. If you end up doing that, you will never get the promotion, because you'll always be stuck with doing what you're doing. So something to think about. The other fourth problem that we see in our top four is the uh, sort of the not being able to scale. So the businesses are not static. It's not linear. So it goes up and down. We've got month ends, we've got budgeting period, we've got reporting season. All of those come and go, and they will create the peaks and troughs within the requirement from the TM1 and TM1 support. What we need to ensure is we will not be able to flatten the curve. What we need to do is ensure that we are able to meet the demand as the curve goes up, and be able to release the resources as it comes down. All right, which in turn now leads us to what we think is the answer. We've brought out a product called Octane Blue, and this fixes all the problems that we've spoken about so far. What we've done is, after having worked and looked at hundreds and hundreds of sites, looking after TM1, supporting them, doing the development, doing the support, and building teams around that, we filtered it down and being able to come up with a product. It's called Octane Blue. What it is you buy a unit of Octane Blue, it gives you 40 hours of Octane. That means it could be support, it could be development, it could be training, it could be consulting, it could be a health check, doesn't matter what it is, and it's fixed price. So you buy Octane Blue. At the moment, the price is 4,350. It will go up in a couple of months. Uh, 40 hours of DevOps, 1 hour response time. So we operate 24/7. So we look after clients globally. So we are geared up, and we provide support on, just a minute. We provide support to a number of clients in the weekends, after hours, and different time zones. So we will be doing support in your time zone. So we've got teams that operate all around the clock. It's SLA based, so we will have a response in less than an hour in almost all the cases. 24/7 coverage. And if you don't end up using the 40 hours in the first month, you can roll over into the next month for another month. So for smaller sites, because what we see is a number of sites fall into the gap where they don't have enough work to actually hire someone full time, but they still have enough work that they require someone. So this also fills in that gap. Uh, and what we've also come up with is a checklist for a very smooth onboarding. So one of the barriers was it becomes difficult to actually on board, get the access and all that. We've done hundreds of that. Our team knows how to work with you and your IT team to get onboarded, be able to get into the model relatively quickly. Within a couple of days, we be able to get the onboarding out of the way. We've also opened up access. So TM1 training, we've obtained one part of our business is TM1 training. We've got our own portals for TM1 training where people go and put their credit card by training. What we'll do, what we do for Octane Blue clients is we open that up so you get free access to latest and greatest training in TM1 as long as you are one of our clients. The other thing which is cool about this is there's no lock-in contracts, so you can buy it once or you can buy one every month. The onus is on us to provide you with the service and the quality of service to ensure you keep buying it. So we've changed the tables around it and put the pressure on us. And I'm glad to say that every client that has signed up has been using it and has increased the usage since we started. So we know we won't do something good. There's no contract, so you can buy once and go, I've used it, doesn't work for me, or I'll buy it when I need it. No problems. We don't care. The other thing that we do is we provide you reporting on the monthly usage and trend. So we collect a number of stats as we go about doing our stuff, End of the month, we either have a meeting or send you a report depending on how you want it, and it gives you all the stats of who raised the ticket, what was the issue, what's the long term fix, is there any foreseeable issues that we see that we can fix in any other way. All that kind of thing, we capture it in a written form as well, so it's there, and then we can action it as required. We also make no distinction between dev and support. So when I was running TM1, we always used to have a fight with our vendors about, you've given us a developer, but he's actually more of a support guy, right? He doesn't know how to write codes and things like that. You don't have to go through all that rubbish anymore. You raise a ticket, we'll figure it out who's the right person, right level of person to do that task for you. All right. So this is something. Oh, man. Next slide. Uh, Bit more detail. So what's included in Octane Blue? So ticketing. If you don't, we depending on how you set up. If you have an existing ticketing system, we will embed with that. If you don't have a ticketing system, if you're not at that level, we will provide. We'll come with our own ticketing system for free. So it's all. The other thing is it's fixed price. There's no there's I can't imagine us coming to you and asking you for more money for because we're providing you with a report or a ticketing service or we spend something. So it helps you manage and sort of maintain the cost. So ticketing is included, the monthly reporting is included, 24/7 availability is included. But typically in practice, what happens is you will have the people looking after you operate in your time zone. So depending on where you are in the world, you will have a team at your disposal at that time. End user training, so access to all our training portal is will be free. What we generally cover is enhancements. So we'll help you manage the enhancements, the list of enhancements, prioritize that, and sort of in a mechanized way go through that. All the admin tasks. So for example, if you bog down doing the user setups and looking at why the TIs failed and looking at the logs and all that kind of thing, and if the server's running out of space, all that kind of stuff, we can take over and handle on your behalf, or look after the things as you want us to. The biggest thing most of the clients use us for is the end user support. So end users would have all kinds of tickets, so they can't see the data. They want a quick and dirty cube view. They want a new Excel report. They want something done in workspace. Doesn't matter what it is. We've got the skills and the breadth of service to be able to look after all of that. So either you or your users can flick over the ticket direct. Some companies get their users to flick over the tickets or interact directly with us. Some organizations have their gatekeeper in the middle where go the end users will ask them, and depending on what it is, the gatekeeper will flick over the tickets to us. We don't care. It doesn't matter which mechanism works for you best. Preventative maintenance. This is something that goes on to the back banner first. So we can utilize the hours towards monthly preventative maintenance. Have a look. Just make sure the oil is changed and the car is serviced and TM1's running smoothly. Patches and upgrades. So if you're still, for any reason, you really should move to the cloud, but for some reason you're still on-prem, we'll do all the patching and the upgrades and look after the service for you and ensure that you upgrade when you upgrade, and we'll provide you all the information as to when to upgrade, and you decide what you want to do. What we see after a month or a couple of months of using us, and these quick wins are probably you'll see this within a month in better and more responsive end user support. So you'll have a user base which is more happy because they're able to get their questions answered, they're able to get their queries answered quickly. The quick and dirty enhancements are done quickly, so you don't have a separate ecosystem of people doing things in Excel or starting to look at other systems because they can't get your attention to do some small bits for you. So if you are in that situation, it will go away. Most places we walk into have a list of and backlog of enhancements and change requests which they've never been able to get around to. That we'll take care of, and we can chain through that as we go. End users are trained up. Suddenly they see what's how they can use TM1 over the period of time as you go through user changes. I mean, new people joining the company, Chinese whispers, right? Somebody telling them this is how you do it. He leaves and tells someone else how to do their job. By the time we come in and look at it and go, why are you doing this? Nobody's able to explain. So first thing we do is try and get all the users onto the training and ensure that they're able to see how to use the TM1 better on their own. And what that does is they start thinking for themselves and go, actually, I can slice and dice and get a better report than this Excel stuff that I'm using, things like that. So you will have a much better usability out of the model that you already have. um, what we also do is when we come in is we by taking over all the menial tasks, we free up your high valued and in almost all cases more highly paid resources to focus their time on more value added tasks. So we free up you or your resources to go and sit with the business a bit more, go and understand what the next priority should be, try and figure out what the strategy should be, and things like that to do more higher value tasks. You will also start getting your clear and transparent reporting on the model issues. So when we come in, most of the clients, what they do is they get us in the first week to do a mini health check. And what that does is we'll go through and give them a report after looking at the system on what their bottlenecks are, where the design flows are, and things like that. You can sit with the report and decide what to prioritize and what to fix as we go. You'll get the ticketing system, you'll get all the requests categorized. If you're unsure, we'll check with you or your team to figure out how to prioritize things and go from there. The biggest thing that happens is we eliminate the key person risk. Not just the key person risk, just about all the risks. So all the risks that you have around data loads, key person risk, the peak hour support, things that keeps you up at night. That's a statement I usually don't like because nobody is up at night thinking about TM1. But however, if there are certain worries that you have in your TM1 application as to we've got a peak period coming up, would we have enough resources? And Octane Blue is not limited. So we've got clients that buy 2 or 3 packs of Octane Blue for a month and then nothing for the next 3 months. Doesn't really matter. We don't judge. We don't care. The other thing that we say is it's not, you may have a good relationship with your existing vendor, happy with that. We get along with all the vendors. This is nothing to do with the licensing side. We do licensing, we'll do a better job of it, but if you're happy with your vendor, keep going. It doesn't affect that relationship. So you can have your existing relationship with the vendor as you're going. This will just come in and slide in and take care of your day to day a bit more. We are highly rated everywhere, so every client that has taken this up have we went around and asked them to give us a feedback, and most of them have given us really glaringly good feedback, which we're really happy and proud about. And this is available either if you go and check out our Google reviews, or if you go to Trustpilot, you'll see all named genuine feedback. That's something that we're really happy and proud about. So next steps, if this is something that piques your interest, or if this is something that you think might help and you want to know a bit further, I'd be happy to have a chat and explain it in a bit more detail as to how it works, what we do. The other thing to note is because there's no ongoing contract, the risk or the barrier to entry is very low, right? So what it means is that you can try and it's probably a very small percentage of your overall TM1 budget to try it and see if it's going to add value to you or not. If you decide to try, just get in touch with me, and then what we'll do is we'll have a chat and send you a simple contract and agree on a start date. So I can this is something which is proving very popular at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll ensure we have the right resourcing available before we say agree on a date and start. Once we agree on that and a start date, You'll have a simple contract and then work on a onboarding checklist. What we usually say is, let's start and have a checkpoint in a month's time to see whether you actually got any value out of it or not, and then decide what to do. Do you want to continue have more Octane Blue units for future months or not? And that's how we go with it. All right. So that brings us on time and at the end of my presentation. If there are any questions, you can put it in the chat, and there are few that have come in, and then I'll be able to answer that. There's a couple that's come in as to how do we ensure that Octane doesn't have issues with sort of staff turnover is one big thing. So that's what it's asking about, is to how do we ensure that Octane also doesn't have staff turnover. Yeah, I'll be lying if I say Octane doesn't have staff turnover, but what we do is this is our day job. We ensure that our staffing and our staff management is in a way that there's no key person risk. So we don't want you to move your key person risk to a Octane key person risk. That will defeat the purpose. So what we do is we've got a team that usually looks after a set of clients. So you will have more than one person from Octane looking after you at any given time, and the information or the knowledge base won't be concentrated with one person within Octane. Uh, the other one is what if you don't end up. Okay, so the question is, what if it doesn't work for you? As I mentioned again, there is no contract, so you don't. There is no obligation on your side to continue or sign up for 12 months to get this pricing access to the no sales gimmick or bullshit like that. This is what it is. Try it. If it works for you, your life will transform. The way you run TM1 will eventually transform. Or if it doesn't, or if you feel it's not working for you, and it sometimes it could happen. It hasn't happened so far, but sometimes it could. If it doesn't, no harm done. We'll walk away, and you can take benefit of that one Octane Blue that you've used, and move on. All right. With that, I will have to end our presentation for today in the interest of time. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to me either via email or on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to answer anything further on that. Thank you. And somebody's asked on the World Cup prediction. If you had asked me last week, I would have predicted Fiji to beat Wallabies, but at this stage, it's very hard to predict the World Cup results. Thank you. All right. Bye.